just explain for the benefit of listeners what the intentions are in relation to the pension and pension age.
Well, what we want to do is to try and stop the government from increasing the pension age to 67 years, which they plan to do in January 2021, and then to 68 years in 2028. And we're really concerned. We're really concerned as it is at the moment, because we have a situation where we have the pension age being 66 years, and you have people who are being forced to retire because of the contracts that they have at 65 years of age, and then they're forced to go on to job seekers payment for a year before they can access the state pension. And we are really concerned about that, and that's why we have brought forward this legislation to try and stop that being done.
Yes, but the obvious argument is, thankfully, we're living longer, we're healthier, we're much more conscious of health than was previously the case, and surely the government has to take cognizance of that. You know, back in the day when the legislation was introduced that you retired at 65, the mortality rate was nothing like what it is today, and therefore government has to take cognizance of that in terms of nothing other than the financial well-being of the country.
Okay, so there's a few things in that, and the first one, I think the most important one is we have by far fewer older people, and yet we have one of the oldest pension ages in Europe. So that doesn't make sense to us on a macro level. And in terms of looking at what it means to pensioners, so if somebody is if somebody's forced to go on to job seekers payment, that payment is €203 per week, whereas the state pension is €248.30 per week. So that makes a difference of €45.30 per week. Now, I know people, and thank God people are living longer, but when you get to the age of 65, and that is, chances are that you're going to need more in terms of healthcare and all that. And when you have a health system the way that we have, more and more I'm finding that people are having to go out and pay for their treatment. So so if they want a scan or something in the hospital, they'll be told, okay, it'll take 18 months. But if you pay whatever, €250, €300, you can have it within a week. So, or if you want a hip operation, you want whatever it might be, and you're in desperate pain, that you have to pay for it. So if we're then putting these pensioners in a situation where they are on a payment of €203 per week, it's very unjust. And the other thing is that when you become eligible for a pension, you can become eligible for other things as well. Now, it might even be a housing grant, a grant to get your bathroom done up, or to get your windows or doors or your roof done, some housing repairs or whatever is needed. So if you are then you'll find that the ages of the eligibility there is increasing non-stop as well. So it has an impact in pushing older people into poverty, and that's what we're trying to stop with this legislation.
We regularly hear that there is a pensions time bomb out there, and that people need to be moved to a state of mind where they need to be preparing for their retirement much earlier in their careers than is normally the case. And surely this is an attempt by government to perhaps radically alter the thinking in this area so that people will take responsibility for themselves and for their future, notwithstanding the fact that that may be years down the line. But nonetheless, it's an issue that has to be addressed, and addressed seriously.
Of course, it does have to be addressed, and that's why the Joint Committee of on Social Protection, where John Brady, their own colleague, is a member on that. They recommended that Minister Doherty would suspend the increases in terms of the age and examine pension age properly, and that there would be a proper consultation process with the trade unions, and there would be a debate in the Houses of the Oireachtas and all that about it to look at the impact on it. It certainly needs to be examined, and there needs to be proper planning for pensions. But there's enormous inequality within the pension system. So people I meet here in Mayo all of the time are affected by this. So, and they're just kind of, it's not right for us just to expect people just to say nothing while they wait to have their pensions reduced, or them not being eligible for their pensions. So that's why it's inequality within it Because you can have some people on massive pensions and, being allowed to be on massive pensions, and others who have them reduced, particularly people as well who are on pharmacist or people who have had to care for a number of years. So what we have found since 2012 is that the governments have brought in very sneaky adjustments there, which the end result of means that there's money taken out of people's pockets all of the time, so that older people are pushed into poverty. So when we need to look at the pension system, we need to look at it in the wider sense of pensions and how we can afford them, and the flexibility around people being able to work, but for people not to be pushed into poverty traps. And that's why I'm pleased as well that IC2 and SIP2 are both supporting our bill, this bill that we're being put forward, that's being put forward. But this is a bill that will go in some way to try and address the problems within pensions. But there's a lot more work that needs to be done around pensions.